So we'll let this collect, and when we hit about 500, 600, we should have enough information where we can actually try to decode the password for this Wi-Fi network.
That's amazing. And you know, you could just be sitting at the pub having a nice drink on the patio with a bunch of your friends, playing with your iPhones, your Blackberries, all those wonderful toys, and you have no idea that somebody is grabbing that information as you're surfing for Twitter and, you know, Facebooking, and which everybody does. I mean, it can happen this quickly.
Exactly, and you brought up a good point. You want to be so careful of the Wi-Fi hotspot that you connect to. Make sure it's from a trusted source.
Right.
So if you're at the coffee shop, an airport, the mall, another public location, make sure that it's actually from that location instead of something that's just out there that you can freely connect to. That should be a red flag. All right, so since we've gathered all the information from our webpage and our sniffing, we can now run this against our cracking database to see if we actually come up with the Wi-Fi password.
Wow, Yamaha 01.
Yep, if that's how easy it is to crack in to a Wi-Fi with a very weak password. As long as you have the time and the tools and the initiative, you may be able to also hack into vulnerable Wi-Fi. So if I am now in that network and I want to go ahead and implant a virus, let's go ahead and take a look and see how easy it is to create one. Again, I'm not a programmer, but I can go ahead and use a tool with the best of them. This little program is something that could be used to create a virus or an exploitation to harvest information such as your password information from your computer or from your server by creating an innocuous program that'll look like an application or maybe even a picture just by clicking on some buttons. So let's go ahead and click on all these options to do a variety of different things, such as switch my mouse keys, disable my firewall. Windows has something called group policies that are also used for security. We can turn those off. And then we can also generate a fake error. So let's go ahead and create a fake error. This is just a sample that will pop up once this program's run on the victim's machine. I will send that information to my email. I can then run a program. We're going to run the calculator, but I can very easily run what's called a keylogger that will record all the keystrokes that happen on this machine and then email them to me, such as your passwords, your bank account information. Anything on this machine I can basically harvest and send to me. So let's go ahead and create this program. I am going to mask this program and make it look like a picture. I'm going to call this picture Heidi. So why do I call this picture Heidi? Let me answer that question with a question. What does Heidi Klum, Piers Morgan, and Cameron Diaz all have in common? The answer is these are all celebrities on the internet that have malicious code embedded in their pictures. So if you download those pictures, it's possible you can go ahead and download a virus.
That's fascinating. And I think it's important to even tell the people that are watching this show that we're showing here a Windows machine, but it's not limited to Windows machines, because I deal with all flavors. And a real big issue, I know F-Secure just recently came out with their warning, and IBM, of course, no small company, has put in some really big bring your own device restrictions in, and one of them being Siri of the Apple iPhone. And of course, Siri is going to be now extended over to the iPad because of their new operating system. And those are real serious breaches. Apparently, your information that are on those devices, once again, just gets sent out and someone can grab them from the air and start using them, of course, for evil, not good.
I'm glad you brought that up because as we move to the cloud and we start using more cloud-based applications, we run the risk of this type of data actually getting away from us. So real quick, what does it mean to go to the cloud? This is somewhere that data is stored that's out of my control. That's where this information's being held, somewhere in a cloud. Siri uses a cloud application to go ahead and respond to those voice inputs. Those responses are stored somewhere on a server, and no matter what has been said, it is stored. So that could be company-sensitive information, it could be confidential information, but it is stored outside of your control.
Right, and IBM recently got very hard on that. They said, this is our policy, this is what will not happen. And I think what we're going to start seeing is more and more companies trying to control all those people that bring in their cool devices, whether they be Android, Apple, Microsoft, it really doesn't matter. It's all cloud-based product. And I think that's the thing that we have to remember is if you're connected to the World Wide Web, it's the Wild West. You know, we have to be careful.
It truly is the Wild West because there are not enough sufficient policies in place, not only for business, but even just simple personal use. Things we need to keep in mind are keeping our antivirus engines up to date, whether it's McAfee, Symantec, Trend Micro, or some other providers. Just keeping those up to date is so important. The second thing is control your devices. What do I mean by that? Make sure your webcams are under your control. Make sure they're off when you want them to be off. Do not use cloud applications in a corporate environment, especially when you're dealing with sensitive information. The idea is to keep that information to you and not to everybody else, sharing it with everyone.
So we're back here with Robert Beggs at Digital Defense, and we're going to be asking a few questions, and thanks, Robert, for doing this with us. This is great. Maybe you could walk us through like what type of companies you started dealing with, how easy it was to hack in before, and now what your situations are, because everybody's now on the internet. Before you just had a few key companies, a few key people doing these things and wanted to be safe, but that's not the case anymore. So maybe you could walk us through those.
It's definitely not. What has changed is that companies are now putting the focus on the value of their information as opposed to how big they are, how many computers they have.
Right.
So we will have two people companies working out of a basement, and they're doing marketing evaluations for a bank, and they have bank information sitting in their network.
Right, right.
So our client list is anyone that's handling stuff of value. We deal quite a bit with hospitals, with banks, anyone that handles financial information, and a lot more frequently companies that are trying to do the best thing.
Right.
Which is secure your network, demonstrate responsibility to the people that give you data, and we're going to be seeing even more of a change when breach reporting laws come in Canada. So if you have a security breach, you'll be mandated, upon penalty of fine, to report it to the government.
That's actually a good thing, but I bet you a lot of people don't realize that. So
a lot of people don't realize, first of all, that there is a possibility of that coming in, but most of them don't even have the ability to recognize when their network has been compromised.
Right.
And what we're seeing is that we can get onto computers, we can get onto networks, and people not only don't recognize that we're there, but even if we're there, they don't recognize the value of what we're doing.
Wow, okay.
So we've actually had a case where we downloaded a database with thousands of names, thousands of credit cards,
Right.
and the system administrator sees us taking the database, but doesn't realize, all he sees are bits of information, doesn't realize what those bits are.
Right, right. And most companies, what I'm finding as well, is they hire these consultants to come in and do the work because most of their people aren't working even in the office anymore. They're kind of out and about. So they're hiring a lot of consultants to do little parts of business where everything was housed internally behind walls, behind firewall equipment, and they had to physically be in the office, but that's not the case anymore. So this information could be very vulnerable.
And what you're bringing up is what we call the whole idea of the perimeter. It used to be you saw your network as being a walled castle. You could put a firewall as the gate. You would have security in the form of a wall. You would have some sort of intrusion detection. Now take a look at the network now, where everyone connects to partners, they connect to vendors, clients log in and see everything. And the most recent innovation is BYOD, bring your own device in.
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of that.
So one of your own employees walks in with a computer. That computer may be full of viruses. It may have hacker tools pre-installed on it. As soon as they plug it into the network, it will automatically begin attacking the network.
Right, right.
So it's okay to create a policy of bring in your own computer, but unless you see it and manage it as part of your network,
Sure.
you're putting your own data at risk.